Hello, everyone, and welcome to Day 1 of HR Exchange Live, Future of Work. We're honored you're joining us. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, Salient and Culture IQ. A couple of quick notes to pass along before our first presentation. Most of our sessions over the next few days include video presentations. Make sure to have your media center open on your screen. Also, speakers want to hear from you. Make sure to send in your questions through the Q&A widget on your screen. Also, feel free to send those during the presentations, as some speakers will answer them right away. And finally, each of you received an email with a series of links. Those will get you into each session for the day. Also, make sure just to click the next URL in line and select Already Registered. All right, our first presentation of the day is about making your HR team technologists. I'd like to introduce to you our speaker, Dr. Jaclyn Lee, the Chief Human Resources Officer for the Singapore University of Technology and Design, and she is also an advisory board member for the HR Exchange Network. Dr. Lee, the floor is yours.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm calling in from Singapore, and I'm so glad you can join in this webinar, and I hope that for the next half an hour I can share some knowledge and some experience, and hopefully we can have an exchange after that. Okay, if you look at your slides, okay, so I'm going to start on the first slide. Now, if you think about digital transformation, digital transformation has basically moved us from the first industry revolution is basically steam engine. That's mechanization. As you move into the second industry revolution, you have the electric power, which is electrification. Then as we move into the third industry revolution, 20th century, we have a lot of IT, computing, and communications. And that was the hype. But if you think about today, we are into the 21st century, is really about the fourth industry revolution, and that's really end-to-end digital. We're talking about intelligent systems, AI, Internet of Things, robotics, data. So in today's world, we're looking at autonomy. So if you think about autonomy, you think about if you look at the 6 mega trends in today's world. First trend on the left, you notice we talk about people and the internet. So there is a lot more wearable and implantable technologies. That's really changing the way how people are connecting and interacting with the world around them. Watches, and now with the Apple Watch you can track your blood pressure. So, and the second big trend on the left hand of the second slide is artificial intelligence and big data. So if in today's the software's ability to learn and evolve, building on big data is really a lot more faster and a lot more powerful. And so we think about it, big data is really now giving us a lot of opportunities to be able to look at trends and patterns. The other trend, which is really interesting, sharing economy and distributed trust. I remember many years ago in Singapore, when we want to eat something, we always think about, going to a restaurant. But in today's world, you think about the sharing economy because of platforms. You don't have to go to a restaurant. You can order food, and someone will deliver the food to your house. And these are all possible because of all these kind of sharing economy platforms that you can go in and buy things, all kinds of things. And so you can see really there's a big trend in terms of online buying. So this kind of disruptive technologies is really enabling new efficiencies. And on the right hand side, computing, communications, and storage, because in the rapid decline in the size, power, as well as cost of technology, this will be leading to really a ubiquitous computing and connectivity. You're really talking about anywhere and anytime. It's that fast. Digitization of matter is another big trend. We do that a lot in the Singapore University of Technology and Design. It's really 3D printing. This is changing industries and really from manufacturing to human health. So if you think about in the future, your organs, they could be printable, and I think this technology we are looking at, in fact, in the next 20 to 30 years, it's even possible to print a liver. So the last trend is really the Internet of Things, IoT, because of smaller, cheaper, and smarter sensors. You think about all these sensors in your home, now there's so much sensors everywhere, your printers, the phone. So these are going to be in your clothes, your cities, transport. In fact, transportation is a very big, takes up a big chunk of it. So let me quickly move to the third slide. So you think about all this, all these trends, it's really the impact of digital transformation. It's really going to impact the way we work, nature of jobs, because jobs are being replaced by advanced robotics, machine intelligence at actually a much faster pace than is being created. And if you think about it, second is really innovation economy. So the new currency today is really information and your data. And really your new form of capital today is really about creativity. Is no longer a single discipline, but cross-disciplinarity. So it's kind of, in your lifetime, you can't just learn one discipline. You got to learn multiple disciplines so that you become an expert generalist. And the new skills in today's world is really AI, data analytics, and 3D printing. In fact, our School of Information Systems is now the biggest school in the university because, all the kids are now running into this area because it is such a booming area. And really think about empowering the individual. Now, ordinary people have access to digital networks to acquire knowledge, communicate with one another, and conduct businesses. So you think about your handphone. I would tell the audience whenever I do a talk like this that look, the handphone is your most powerful device because it's empowering today's individuals in unimaginable ways. Well, thanks to Mr. Steve Jobs, God bless you. Right. So you think about this, and this impact in the digital transformation survey, reshaping the competitive landscape, Industry 4.0. A lot of companies are now seeing the benefit of changing their business models, really moving into in 5 years, really going through this digital transformation, Industry 4.0. And they would think that because of this kind of digital transformation, you're going to see 86% of them are expecting to see cost reductions and revenue gains. In fact, they think that these improvements will exceed 20% over the next 5 years. So that's the power of, we call the digital economy. So moving to slide number 6. So that's an important, this is an important slide for HR practitioners. So if you think about the future of jobs, right, Industry 4.0. So if you look at the left-hand graph, we started with physical manual labor during the first industrial revolution, and then we moved on to more office administrative routine kind of jobs. But today's jobs are really involving a lot of creative, innovative kind of skills. So it's really moving, those jobs are being replaced. The routine parts of jobs can now be replaced by machines, robots, and AI. So the jobs are really moving into, the newer jobs are really in a more innovative and creative space. And that means that workers really have to reskill or even upskill. And this is really very disruptive. So if you think about the mid and low level jobs involving manual and routine tasks, of course, it's slowly coming down. And the newer jobs will be really cross-disciplinary. It's about knowledge, about creativity, innovation, personal and communication skills. So for employers, for us, as HR directors, as employers, how do we retrain our employees and relook at new management and reward systems? And for employees, for us, I'm also an employee. How do we embrace new technologies and learn something new multiple times? So I'm not talking about once, but I'm talking about multiple times in our life that we really have to keep learning and relearning, our skills. So this really involves a very cross-disciplinary learning and growth mindset for lifelong learning. Okay, let's move on to slide number 7. So if you look at this graph, technology today, you think about it, the rate of change of technology, if you look at the graph, it's really very rapid. Mobile sensors, AI, cognitive computing, and access to technology by consumers. But if you look at the gap in business performance, there is a huge gap. And so what I'm saying here is that although technology has advanced at a very rapid rate, the ability of organizations and businesses to catch up with the technology is still lagging behind. So now we think about how do we as HR practitioners or even as employers really look at closing this gap in the workforce. So that means we have to think about the kind of people we're going to hire, the kind of new skills, the kind of training program, kind of culture transformation that you need to think about implementing in your organization. So so the first part really talks about the landscape. So I started with, how, society has transformed into autonomy. I talk about the 6 mega trends. I talk about the future of jobs. I talk about Industry 4.0. I talk about how the jobs are going to change, and reskilling. And then I talk about the big gaps that we have to close. So the next couple of slides, I've done some research, and on what is it like, in megatech in 2050. You say, hey Jack, it's so far away, but while you think about it, it's already closing in on 2020. So you think about 30 years time, the technology, what's going to happen. So, I've done some research, and I'd like to share with some of the trends that, in my research that we are looking at that will happen, and that will help us prepare for the future. So think about it. First is really electric cars. Electric cars are going to come on fast and furious. In fact, in Singapore, we are hoping to replace 50% of our car population with electric vehicles. In fact, the power companies are now preparing charging stations all over Singapore to get ready for electric cars implementation. We're doing a lot of test drives. The second mega trend is really about medical technology. So if you think about medical technology, sorry for all of you, some of you there who are medical doctors. Now, if you think about doctors becoming less important, it's because we are now using a lot of diagnosis by computer-aided equipment to be able to track data. So if you look at nanotechnology clothing, it's really now implemented digestible cameras that you can swallow like a pill, and they can take pictures of tumors. And machines are monitoring health. So in today's, doctors are a lot more technologically savvy and using a lot of equipment to really look for diseases, identify with more accurate diagnosis. If we think about transplantable organs, as I explained, 3D printing is going to revolutionize medicine. So you think about organs that are transplantable and being printed. And of course, the fourth area is stem cells, pharmaceutical advances. Really, we look about regenerating cells in the lab and returning them back to the body. So this is something that is possible in the next 30 years. So the next trend is really cortical modem. Says that this is crazy. Why would someone want a modem or a chip in your brain? But you just imagine having Google in your brain. You are going to be the most powerful person. If you have a chip in your brain, you can connect to the internet. Gosh, you have a wealth of information. So if you look at a cortical modem, it's not far-fetched because in slide 12, Elon Musk has already started a company, basically, looking into called Neuralink. He's actually looking at merging the human brain with AI. So this is something that's already kind of been kickstarted currently. So let's look at slide 13. So if I look at slide 13, the other trend is lawyers will become less important, because in fact we see a trend that lawyers, junior lawyers coming up, not as easy for them to find jobs because algorithms can actually review millions of documents now faster and more accurately than humans. So because of that, you think about all the paralegal work, machines can really plow through the data and give you a lot more accurate judgment. So they have access to actually all trial-related outcomes from previous cases and fair judgment. So that's another big trend that we see. So let's move on to slide 14. In slide 14, we say that, as I explained, 3D printing, it's going to become a commodity. It's no longer going to be only in big, outfits. It's going to shift from really large centralized factories to local workshops, homes. And can you imagine in future using a VR device, and you can draw and design something and send a finished product to the 3D printer, personalized chip, and really no waste. And of course, the third step is revolution in fabrication. You're able to actually produce designs that would have been expensive due to customization. In fact, the machines can now print in really high precision, even in metal. And if you think about the amazing, opportunities in dentistry, so digital dentistry, accurate and specialized dental materials, retainers, crowns, because of 3D printing. So the next trend, as I move on to slide 15, is really about big data analysis. Because of the rapid transition from computer science to the real-world scenarios, there is going to be a reduced amount of data to be compressed. With better compression of data, early detection of irrelevant data, and more effective sampling. So you think about large microscopes. Today, whether you like it or not, the satellites, there are lots of scopes out there collecting information, billions of connected devices in the world to look at how insights and how people, places, things are connected. So that's another trend in future tech. And if I move on to slide 16, so the other big trend is really Internet of Things. And in fact, automotive and transportation is going to make up the largest market share, followed by healthcare and intelligent household appliances. Imagine having a refrigerator that knows when you're running out of milk, and it automatically sends the messages to the online platform, and they are able to deliver your milk without you even knowing that you're run out of supply. Right? So if you look at the next slide 17, it's a very important slide. Okay, so now let's think about HR's role in digital transformation. As I explained just now, if you look at technology, the curve, technology is really at the top, but the gap between technology and businesses is there. But what is actually more shocking is the gap between technology and public policy. In fact, public policy is very slow to catch up with technological changes. Unless the governments are really progressive. Maybe I share very quickly about Singapore. Our government does a lot of work in digital, smart nation strategy, and the public policies are really geared towards equipping the nation with digital skills, pumping a lot of money in training and development, and in fact, a lot of our courses are supported by government grants, especially courses in data analytics, in computer science, in what we call AI, cyber. All these are being supported by government grants. So because of the government's big push into the digital economy, they are able to really support the businesses. So in fact, as HR practitioners, how do we lobby our governmental bodies? How do you join our local societies and really, help to rally public policy to help us push towards government support for digitization? Of course, the next biggest gap in these businesses. But interestingly, for individuals, the gap between individuals and technology is the smallest gap. That's because, as you know, individuals are holding handphones. In fact, the Gen Z, Gen Z coming out, they're so digitally savvy. So you think about that. So individuals, the gap is so small. But public policy is the biggest problem. So how do we as HR practitioners close this gap? I think the gaps for the individuals are not so difficult. It's a lot of retraining and reorientating your workforce, culture transformation. But for businesses and public policy, that's a little bit more tricky. Okay, so let's move on to slide 18. So I really think about, if I think about HR, I call it digital HR. It's not evolution, but it's a revolution. You can't have evolution because it's too slow. So digital disruptions and social networking are now altering how organizations hire, manage, and support people. So how do we as HR practitioners move from managing? I don't talk about managing anymore. How do we organize talent with data analytics? So it's really how do we bring all the talent from different parts of the world? How do we organize them using data? Really data to look at the kind of talent we have, the gaps, and how do we close them? And because technologies are changing the way companies operate, we have to move from very functional to multidisciplinary work and integrated HR. So now move on to slide 19. So key questions that we need to ask ourselves. How do we lead business leaders and employees shift towards a digital mindset, new way of managing and organizing? How do we reinvent our HR and employee experience in a digital world? How do we even ourselves, change our processes and reorientate our mindset? And how can we develop design thinking skills? It's so critical for HR practitioners to design thinking skills because of innovation, of rapid digitization. We got to be able to use design thinking to really redesign not just for processes, but technology. How do we make mobile technology easier and more productive and work more enjoyable for employees? So these are the key questions we ask ourselves. So moving on to slide 20, quick summary on this slide 20. So basically, we look at the employee digital life cycle. I kind of classify under 4 quadrants with a little bit of help from Dave Ulrich. So employee experience really is about culture, engagement, and beyond. So that's really your social media and your employee engagement platforms. Learning and mastery is really talking about learning and self-mastery, performance management. So that's talking about how do you build adaptability, continuous learning, and personal development. And if you talk about HR innovation using technology, so cognitive recruitment and people analytics as well as the future of work. So how do we leverage on data, cognitive technologies and AI to improve our processes and enable more effective decision making? If you look at efficiency platforms, we got to be able to use technology to design improved work. So if you look at the entire employee digital life cycle, we kind of have a sense of how do we kind of redesign the life cycle to fit, very fast changing world and industry 4.0. So let me move on to slide 21. So how do you prepare for the future? So I think about the future. How do HR practitioners prepare for the future? What type of skills do we need to have to get ready for AI and onslaught of digitization? How can we create an environment of empowerment and employee satisfaction? So I have these 5 concepts that I've developed over the years, and the 5 concepts we talk about. If you look at slide 23, I'm going to jump to slide 23. The 5 HR capabilities. So the first capability that I'm going to talk about is really about organization, development, and change management. Because of dynamic business environments, constant change, how do we understand, how to revisit old structures? Because a lot of the structures are obsolete in the past, that are very hierarchical and help our organizations transit to a more agile, lean, and nimble multidisciplinary teams. This means tearing down old structures, having the courage to challenge current structures, working with your CEO to advise, on the kind of org design. So like in SUTD, we are basically very different. We don't have traditional school. We design along multidisciplinary lines and really design along product systems and services. So the entire curriculum is actually quite revolutionary. But in order to do that, we have to disrupt the org structure, and org structure is something that is very lean and agile. So in order to transit to a new way of working, we need to work with our senior leaders to drive change to culture alignment. So that's a very critical part. So if I move on to the second capability, that's on slide 24. Yeah, slide 24. The second capability that I would say that we would need to have is really technological savviness. It's continually becoming important for HR to innovate in the area of technology as companies continue to drive productivity and use analytics to improve employee performance. So I think about the CTO or the head of IT. I don't think that we should let them lead technology discussions in the area of HR. We know HR better than anyone else. So we need to know enough, to research enough, and we need to be the ones driving technology discussions. And we need to be able to describe our talent strategy. So if you think about our talent strategy, we can see how technology can support the strategic implementation of key HR initiatives, your programs, and your people analytics. So case in point, when we were designing the SUTD HR systems, I really looked at the entire employee digital life cycle. We look at designing the technology around the talent strategy. It's not the other way around. So when you do it this way, your technologies are going to support your employee digital life cycle and really create empowerment in your organization. So that is capability number 2, technological savviness. So if you look at slide 25, slide 25 is really about the third capability is really about business partnership. Well, I'm not talking about the kind of business partnership that we currently have, but this kind of business partnership I'm talking about is really having the ability to understand the unique challenges and needs of each business unit and internal departments, and that supports and drives your organization's goals. So I'm talking about ability to develop strategic plans together with the heads and deploying them with successful outcomes. So it's not just talking about it, but how do we deploy? How do we sit down with our business unit heads and think about the people strategy and be able to successfully execute and deploy the strategies? That to me is the heart of good partnership. So I think, again, like every member of HR, department or HR, HR workforce, need to operate like professional consultants that are hired to solve technical and strategic people issues. So, as I said, every person in HR division in essence is a business partner serving internal clients. So that mindset is so critical. So let me quickly move on to the fourth capability. So the fourth capability is really, as I talk about, it's really about design making, because innovation and disruption is going to be needed as businesses face increasing competition. So HR, how do we need to learn tools in design thinking to look at ways to improve processes, to introduce these tools to the workforce so that innovation, creativity, and collaboration can occur in the workplace. So for example, for us, all employees have to go through a 2-day compulsory design thinking course, everyone that comes in, because this is the ethos of the organization. So that when we do what we do and everything we do is really about design thinking, and we use a lot of design thinking in the way we design our IT systems, a lot of agile Scrum methodology, so that whatever software we deploy out there, it's something that's going to meet at least 90% of user satisfaction. Okay, so the fourth capability is really about design thinking. And if you look at slide 27, so the fifth, this list might not be comprehensive, but I've highlighted 5 key skills. The last one is really about marketing and social media capabilities. So we think about today's HR division. You no longer can just think about HR as in the traditional HR, but you have to introduce new members into HR teams, or like bring in digital marketing experts, folks with social media capabilities, because you've got to be able to understand social media platforms and how to communicate through them, because today's recruitment is very complex. It's no longer paper, but everything is through the online platforms. So you've got to be able to deploy media, so that social media and all kinds of media forms, so that you know how to reach the audience and position your organization. So really it's about digital employer branding. So these media forms are going to be able to help you to have persuasive communication through clever marketing strategies. The marketing folks have done it for a long time. Why don't we pick their brains and bring their skills into HR? And one important area that I believe very strongly is that we got to use a lot of digital tools for culture transformation, online platforms, polls, because change is so fast. Employee climate surveys, I'm sorry to say that I think it's a bit old-fashioned. I think pulse surveys are a lot more effective, because things move so fast. You got to have a sense, have a pulse of the ground every 3 months, every 4 months. So basically also using digital platforms for L&D. In fact, the learning and development function is one of the functions that has the most ability to innovate. You can use AR, VR technologies to train, to retrain, and online platforms, e-learning platforms, and use your phone. There's a lot of now learning that's being pushed through your handphone, and everyone has a handphone. So you think about it, to summarize, the entire, reorientation of Industry 4.0 requires these kind of skills. So I've gone through the whole sequence about what's happening, the transition, and I've also talked about future technologies so that we have a glimpse of the future world. And I move on to talk a little bit about the gaps, and I also talk a little bit about the employee digital life cycle. Then I move on to talk about the 5 capabilities. So first capability is really about organization change and design. The second capability is really about being technologically savvy. Third capability is really about design thinking. Fourth capability is really about having marketing and social media capabilities. And the other one is really about being able to be a good business partner. So if you look at slide 28, if you look at slide 27, so please there's an article you can read that Joe Escobedo wrote on Forbes, and I contributed a big portion of it. And we really talk about how do we integrate marketing with human resources. So basically, I'm concluding my presentation shortly. So if you think about it, are we all ready for the future? And please, you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. I have a lot of articles, also a personal website. Feel free to go in and browse through the articles. I have also an article on the 5 HR capabilities. And with that, I end my presentation, and thank you very much. I think I'm just in time. Thank you.
Dr. Lee, excellent presentation. Thank you. So for our audience members, please move to the second session of the day by clicking the next URL in your email. And don't forget to click Already Registered. Thank you again, Dr. Lee.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Bye.